My name is Allison Hicks. I'm here today with Ed Korrick. It's November 9th, 2008. We're at the Valley of the Sun JCC interviewing for the Arizona Jewish Historical Society. So, Mr. Korrick, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. We really appreciate it.
Happy to be here, Allison.
So, tell me about your early childhood in Arizona and what the Jewish community was like when you were a kid growing up here.
Very small. The Jewish community in Phoenix in the 1930s was measured in hundreds, not thousands. And if there were 300 people here, Jewish people here in the 1930s, it was a lot. Wow. We had one temple, and others followed, but when I was growing up in the mid-30s, there was only one temple here, Temple Beth Israel.
Were you married at Temple Beth Israel?
No, I was married in Louisville, Kentucky, where my wife lived.
Oh, okay. Were you bar mitzvahed here in Phoenix?
I was bar mitzvahed here 70 years ago last month.
Oh, wow. At Temple Beth Israel?
At Temple Beth Israel.
Who was the rabbi?
Rabbi Jaffa.
Rabbi Jaffa.
A wonderful, wonderful man.
Okay. And he was your rabbi for a lot of your childhood?
Yeah, he was.
And once he was gone, who then came in to live?
Rabbi Crone, Abraham Lincoln Crone.
Okay.
Was an intellectual and a very interesting man.
And what part of town did your family live in?
My mother and father built a house on North 7th Street, just north of Talmas Road. And that is now a large apartment.
Okay. And did you grow up there your whole childhood?
Most of my childhood was spent there, yeah, getting into all sorts of trouble.
And what schools did you go to?
I went to Osborne Grammar School, Phoenix Union High School 1 year while I was still working, and North Phoenix High School.
Okay.
I graduated from North Phoenix High School in 1942. And
did you continue on to college locally?
Before I went in the Army, I spent a year at Stanford, and I was in the Air Force for 3 years, from 1943 to 1946.
And then where did you go?
I went back to Stanford to get my degree. And we had a family business at the time, which was a department store named Korrick's.
Okay.
And I was prevailed upon to stay in the store for a while to learn something. But we thought that maybe if I went to New York, I would learn more than I would in Phoenix. So I went to work for Macy's, and that's where I met my lovely wife at the Macy's training program. And I started that in 1948. And spent a year in New York, thoroughly enjoying it and trying to learn something.
And where was your department store, your family store?
First Street in Washington. The building is still there.
What is it now?
Pardon me?
What is it now?
It's an office building.
Okay. And when you came back to Phoenix from New York, were you then working for the family business?
I was working for the store temporarily. And we sold the store in 1962, and I left the operation. And became a stockbroker.
How long did you work as a stockbroker here in the community?
I stayed with Morgan Stanley for 32 years.
Wow.
And prior to that, Dean Witter. So I had 2 careers, actually 3 careers. I left the store in 1962 when we sold out and went into the banking business for 5 years. And then after that, I went into the security business.
Now, what during your adulthood, when you came back to Phoenix, what was your involvement at all in the Jewish community? Did you use the JCC? Were you active with the temple?
I was president of the JCC in the early 60s. We were struggling at the time because we didn't have any money. And Sam Hoffman built us a campus on 16th Street and Camelback, I guess it was. And that was fine, except we didn't have any money to run it. So it was difficult times then. The Phoenix community was not that well-to-do and certainly wasn't that generous. And so the community center struggled. And we had a couple of very, very competent executives like Hirsch Kaplan and people like that who kept us going. But I remember my couple of years at the center as being very difficult because we couldn't afford to pay the director of the center very much, and it was not an easy task. That was my major role in the Jewish community, was as president of the Jewish Community Center.
And how many years did you do that?
Just a year, but it seemed like a lot more at the time.
What kind of anti-Semitism did you experience?
Well, you had commercial anti-Semitism where people weren't allowed to be in certain hotels and resorts and things like that, which everybody knows about. The banking industry was kind of a silent problem. You didn't hear much about Jewish bankers in Phoenix in the 1930s and 40s. I think it was by design, but I'm not certain of that.
What do you mean by design?
Well, I mean, they didn't hire Jewish bankers.
Okay.
There are very few. If you looked at all the big banking firms, Valley Bank and the rest of them, they had very, very few Jewish people working for them.
And what about in school? Did you experience...
Oh, God, yes.
Really?
Oh, yeah, yeah. There was always a fight going on of some sort, you know. And if you were well known as being Jewish, it becomes a little more prevalent, you know. There were certain things that we could not join or could not do because of our faith, and how can I say it? It was a different world.